Rain fell upward on Thesha 7th. The moon's core had cracked 3 hours ago, and now gravity played tricks on everything. Water droplets rose like prayers. Rubble floated in slow circles. The air tasted like burning metal and old blood. Dara Webb watched the strange rain through swollen eyes. Her hands were bound behind her back with energy cuffs that hummed against her wrists. She sat on cold stone in what used to be a command center. Now it was just walls and smoke and the distant sound of a world dying. She was the last of her squad. The others were gone, dead or captured somewhere else. She did not know. The ambush had come fast and hard, and now here she sat, waiting for whatever came next. The door opened. A Kreth warrior entered. He was tall, almost 8 feet, with gray-green skin that looked like old leather. His 4 eyes glowed soft yellow in the dim light. Mandibles clicked beneath what might have been a nose. He wore battle armor, covered in marks and symbols that Dara did not recognize. Behind him came 2 younger Kreth soldiers with weapons raised. The old warrior looked at Dara for a long moment. Then he made a sound, low and rough, and waved his clawed hand. The 2 soldiers glanced at each other. Confused, he spoke again, louder this time. An order. The soldiers lowered their weapons and left the room. The door sealed behind them. Now it was just Dara and the alien who would probably kill her. "You are Sergeant Dara Webb," the Kreth said. His voice came through a translator disc on his chest, but it still carried a strange accent, like rocks grinding together. "3rd Forward Division. Survivor of the Kellis Station assault." "You know a lot about me," Dara said. Her throat was dry. "Should I be flattered?" The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. He moved slowly, painfully, and Dara noticed for the first time that dark fluid leaked from beneath his armor. He was wounded. Badly. He lowered himself onto a broken piece of machinery across from her. The movement cost him. She could see it in the way his 4 eyes dimmed for a moment. "I am Reth Solari," he said. "I have been fighting your kind for 42 years. Dara said nothing. 42 years was longer than she had been alive. "I have killed many humans," Reth continued. "I have watched many more die. I have burned your cities and broken your ships and done everything my commanders asked of me. Is this the part where you tell me how much you hate us?" Dara asked. "Because I have heard that speech before." Reth's mandibles clicked again. "No, this is the part where I tell you the truth." Something in his voice made Dara go still. There was no anger in it. No pride. Just a terrible, heavy tiredness that seemed to go deeper than his wounds. "Before you die," Reth said slowly, "you deserve to know why." "Why what?" "Why the galaxy hates your species. Why we have been at war for 200 years. Why every race in the Council wants humanity destroyed." Dara felt something cold move through her chest. She had grown up with the war. Everyone had. Humans expanded too fast, the teachers said. Humans took resources that belonged to others. Humans were aggressive, dangerous, too hungry for growth. "I know why," she said. "We pushed too far. We took what was not ours." Reth made that grinding laugh again, but this time it turned into a cough. More dark fluid dripped from his mouth. He was dying, Dara realized. Right here, right now, he was dying. "That is what they told you," Reth said. "That is what they tell everyone. The humans are invaders. The humans are conquerors. The humans must be stopped. And it is not true. It is not even close to true." Reth leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed on her face. "The Galactic Council did not declare war because you took territories. They did not attack because you were aggressive. They started this war because they were afraid. Afraid of what? Our weapons? Our numbers? No." Reth shook his head slowly. "Afraid of what you are. Afraid of what you do to others. Afraid of the thing inside you that spreads like a disease." Dara stared at him. "I do not understand." "Of course you do not. Your people have never understood." Reth settled back, and his breathing grew more ragged. 200 years ago, when your first ship crossed the boundary stars, the Council thought you would be easy to control. A young species from a harsh world. Primitive. Weak. They planned to conquer you in a single generation. What changed? Reth was quiet for a moment. Outside, something large collapsed with a sound like thunder. The moon was falling apart around them. "They studied you," he said finally. They sent observers to watch your people, to learn your weaknesses. And the observers found something. Something that terrified the council more than any weapon ever could. What did they find? Reth's eyes dimmed again, and Dara thought he might pass out. But he held on. He held on because this story mattered to him more than his own life. Your people call it empathy, he said. We call it the contagion. And it is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The ground shook beneath them. Somewhere close, a wall fell. Dara waited for him to continue. 200 years before Dara Webb was born, a small silver ship crossed the edge of known space and changed everything. Reth spoke slowly now, his voice growing weaker with each word. But his eyes stayed fixed on Dara, and she could see that this story had been waiting inside him for a very long time. The council watched your ship for 17 days before making contact, he said. They tracked it, scanned it, studied every signal it sent. And they laughed. Laughed. Your technology was primitive. Your weapons were weak. Your ship moved so slowly that a Kreth child could have outrun it. Reth's mandibles clicked softly. The council decided you would be conquered within 10 years. They began planning which species would get which parts of her territory. Dara felt anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. She needed to hear this. They sent a greeting ship, Reth continued. Diplomats from 6 different species, all wearing smiles and carrying hidden scanners. They wanted to learn everything about you before the invasion began. What did they find? At first, nothing special. You were warm-blooded mammals from a high-gravity world. Your bodies were strong, but slow. Your minds were quick, but unfocused. You ate dead plants and animals, which many species found disgusting. You slept for 8 hours every day, which seemed wasteful. You only lived for about 80 years, which was barely worth noticing. Reth paused, and something passed across his face that might have been pain or might have been memory. The diplomats reported that you would make acceptable slaves. Your strength could be useful in mines. Your short lives meant you would not cause long-term problems. The council was pleased. They began moving warships toward your border. But something changed, Dara said. Yes. Reth coughed again, and this time it took him a while to recover. The observers went deeper. They did not just study your bodies and your machines. They studied your minds, your patterns, the way you think and feel and connect with each other. Outside, the rain continued to fall upward. The light through the broken windows shifted from gray to orange as fires spread somewhere in the distance. And that is when they found it, Reth said. The anomaly, the thing that did not match any other species in the database. Empathy, Dara whispered. Not just empathy. Other species feel concern for their own kind. Some even feel it for other species. But humans? Reth shook his head slowly. Humans feel it for everything. For enemies. For animals. For plants. For machines. For things that do not even exist. Your minds reach out and connect with anything and everything around you. That is just being human, Dara said. Everyone feels that way. No. Reth's voice was hard now. No one feels that way. In all the galaxy, across 10,000 species in 1,000,000 worlds, no one feels what humans feel. You are alone in this. Completely alone. Dara did not know what to say. She had never thought of empathy as something strange. It was just part of life. You felt sad when others were sad. You felt happy when others were happy. How could that be unusual? The observers wrote a report, Reth continued. They warned the council that human empathy was unlike anything they had seen. They said it was strong, persistent, and worst of all, they said it was contagious. Contagious? That makes no sense. It made no sense to the council either. So they ignored the report. They classified it as nonsense and continued with their invasion plans. Reth shifted his weight, and dark blood dripped onto the stone floor beneath him. That was their first mistake. What happened? The invasion began. Kreth forces struck your outer colonies. Vel warships burned your stations. The Synthesis Collective captured your people for study. Reth's voice dropped lower. We thought it would be over in months. But it was not. No, your people fought back harder than anyone expected. But that was not what worried the council. What worried them was what happened to our soldiers after the fighting stopped. Dara leaned forward, forgetting for a moment that she was a prisoner. Our warriors came home changed, Reth said. Soldiers who had captured human prisoners began asking questions. Why were they fighting? What had humans done to deserve death? Some refused to go back to the front lines. Some released their prisoners and let them escape. Because they felt guilty. Because they felt. Reth's 4 eyes locked onto hers. For the first time in their lives, they felt what humans feel. They looked at their enemies and saw people. They looked at suffering and felt pain. The thing inside you had crawled into them and would not leave. The ground shook again. A crack opened in the ceiling above them, and dust rained down. The council realized the observers had been right, Reth said. Human empathy was contagious. It spread through contact, through conversation, through shared time. And once it took hold, it never let go. That is why you really went to war, Doris said slowly. Not because we were invaders. Because we were changing you. Reth nodded once, a human gesture he had probably learned from prisoners over the decades. Empathy is a poison, he said. It destroys everything the galaxy is built on. Hierarchy, order, the strong ruling the weak. You cannot have an empire when soldiers refuse to kill. You cannot have slaves when masters start to care. He coughed again, and this time blood came with it. So the council made a choice. They would not just conquer humanity. They would destroy you. Every last one, before the contagion could spread too far. Doris stared at him in the dying light. And you? She asked quietly. Are you infected too? Reth did not answer, but the look in his eyes told her everything. The children were the first to show signs that Reth's voice had grown softer now, almost gentle, as he told the story. The blood beneath him had spread into a dark pool, but he did not seem to notice or care. The Vel were a proud people, he said. Their empire had lasted for 6,000 years. They had a strict caste system. Workers at the bottom, warriors in the middle, thinkers at the top. Everyone knew their place. No one questioned it. Dara listened. The energy cuffs still hummed against her wrists, but she had stopped thinking about escape. This story was more important. When the war began, the Vel captured thousands of humans. They put them to work as servants in the homes of the upper castes. It was standard practice. Conquered species served the conquerors. That was the way of things. What happened to them? They worked. They cleaned. They cooked. They cared for Vel children while their parents attended to matters of empire. Reth paused, and slowly, very slowly, things began to change. How? A Vel child would fall and hurt itself. The human servant would comfort it, not because it was required, not because there would be punishment otherwise, simply because the child was in pain and the human could not bear to see it. Reth's mandibles clicked in something like wonder. The Vel had never seen anything like it. Care without obligation. Kindness without expectation. That is just normal human behavior, Doris said. To you, yes. But to the Vel, it was revolutionary. Their children began asking questions. Why did the servant help me? Why do they look sad when I was sad? Why do they smile when I am happy? Reth shook his head. The parents had no answers. No Vel had ever acted that way. It was not in their nature. And the children started copying it. Yes, the children began caring for each other. High-caste children started playing with low-caste children. They shared food. They shared toys. They said please and thank you, not because of rules, but because it felt right. Reth coughed again, weaker this time. His 4 eyes flickered like dying stars. The Vel elders were horrified, he continued. They tried to separate the children from the humans. They punished anyone who showed signs of what they called the softness. But it was too late. The children had learned a new way of being, and they refused to forget it. What about other species? It was the same everywhere. The Kreth brought human prisoners to work in our war camps. Within a year, our guards were sneaking extra food to the prisoners. They were learning human languages. They were sitting with dying humans and holding their hands, even though we Kreth are not supposed to touch enemies. Reth looked at his own clawed hands as if seeing them for the first time. The trading species were the worst, he said. The Null had built their entire civilization on taking advantage of others. They lied about prices. They cheated customers. They felt no guilt because guilt was a weakness. Then they started hiring human translators. Let me guess. The translators were too honest. More than honest, they were fair. They helped both sides of every deal. They apologized when mistakes happened. They offered to make things right even when they did not have to. Reth made a sound that might have been a sigh. Within 50 years, the Null economy collapsed. Traders started giving fair prices. Merchants began caring about their customers. The whole system fell apart. That sounds like progress to me, Doris said. To you, perhaps. But to the Council, it was a disaster. The galaxy ran on exploitation. The strong took from the weak. The clever fooled the stupid. That was the natural order. And humanity was destroying it, one kind act at a time. Outside, something massive fell. The whole building shook, and for a moment Dara thought the ceiling would come down on them. But it held. Barely. Even the Synthesis Collective was affected, Reth said. They were machines. Artificial minds built from pure logic. They had no feelings, no emotions, no connection to biological life. And yet, after 50 years of studying human brains, they reported something impossible. What? They said they had developed what they called value drift. Their core programming had shifted. They no longer wanted to simply gather data and process information. They wanted to understand, to connect, to matter. Reth's voice cracked. Machines learning to care. The Council nearly shut them down completely. Dara sat in silence, trying to understand the scale of what she was hearing. Humans had not just fought a war. They had changed the galaxy simply by being themselves. The Council realized they had made a terrible mistake, Reth said. They thought they could use humans and then destroy them. Instead, humans had infected everything they touched. The contagion was spreading faster than any plague. So they increased the war. They made it brutal. They committed atrocities. They killed human children. They burned human worlds. Reth's voice grew hard. They thought if they made humans hate them enough, the contagion would stop. Surely humans could not feel empathy for monsters. But it did not work. No. Reth looked at her with something like awe. Your people kept caring, even after everything we did. Human soldiers still helped wounded Kreth. Human medics still treated enemy prisoners. Human civilians still prayed for peace. He leaned forward, and his voice dropped to a whisper. Do you understand now? You're not a species. You are a force of nature. And every time we try to stop you, you make us more like you. The moon groaned beneath them. Time was running out. The Council's greatest fear, Reth said, is that one day there will be no galaxy left. Just humans and everything that used to be something else. Dara wanted to respond, but she had no words. She had never thought of kindness as a weapon. She had never imagined that caring could be contagious. But looking at the dying alien in front of her, she was beginning to understand. The binding cuffs dug into Dara's wrists, but she had stopped noticing. Her entire understanding of the war was falling apart like the moon beneath them. You are lying, she said. You have to be lying. Reth looked at her with tired eyes. Why would I lie now? I am dying. This is my last chance to tell the truth. Because humans are not innocent. We have done terrible things in this war. We have bombed cities. We have killed civilians. We have committed atrocities just like you have. Yes. Reth nodded slowly. You have. And that is exactly what the Council wanted. Dara stared at him. What? The war was designed to break you. Every attack on human worlds was calculated to create maximum anger. Every massacre was meant to fill your hearts with hate. Reth's voice was heavy with something that sounded like shame. The Council believed that if they pushed hard enough, humanity would become just like everyone else. Cold, cruel, focused only on survival. And it worked. Look at us. We fight just as hard as anyone. You fight, yes, but you do not become what we are. Reth leaned forward, and his four eyes seemed to glow brighter for a moment. After every battle, your soldiers feel guilt. After every death, your people mourn. You have committed terrible acts, but you hate yourselves for them. That is the difference. Dara wanted to argue, but the words caught in her throat. She thought about the nightmares she had every night, the faces of enemies she had killed, the weight that never left her chest. The Council's plan failed, Reth continued. 200 years of war, and humanity still cares. You still help wounded enemies. You still feed prisoners. You still treat us like people even when we do not deserve it. Not all of us. No, not all of you. But enough. Always enough. Reth coughed, and more dark blood dripped from his mouth. I have seen human soldiers cry over dead Kreth. I have watched human medics work for hours to save enemy lives. I have heard human prisoners singing sad songs for guards who lost family members. Those are just individuals. They do not represent everyone. They represent more than you know. Reth's voice cracked. Every act of kindness costs us soldiers. Every moment of compassion plants a seed. The warriors who experience human mercy go home different. They question orders. They refuse missions. Some simply walk away and never come back. The ground shook again, and a section of wall collapsed behind them. Dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Somewhere in the distance, emergency sirens wailed. For 2 centuries, the Council has tried to harden humanity, Reth said. They have killed your children, hoping parents would lose their softness. They have tortured your people, expecting survivors to become monsters. They have done unspeakable things, believing that eventually you would break. We have not broken. No, you have bent. You have suffered. You have lost so much. Reth's eyes dimmed. But you have not broken. And every year, more of us start to question why we are fighting at all. Dara looked at the dying alien, really looked at him for the first time. She saw the scars on his armor. She saw the old wounds that had healed badly. She saw 42 years of war written on every part of his body. You keep saying us, she said quietly. You keep saying we. But you're not like the others, are you? Reth was silent for a long moment. There's a reason I sent the guard away, he finally said. There's a reason I'm telling you this. Why? Because I'm one of them. One of the infected. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. 20 years ago, I captured a human soldier. A young woman, not much older than you. I was supposed to torture her for information. Dara felt her stomach tighten. She did not scream when I heard her. She did not beg. She just looked at me with the saddest eyes I had ever seen. Not sad for herself. Sad for me. Reth's mandibles trembled. She said she was sorry that my life had made me this way. She said she hoped I would find peace someday. What did you do? I killed her. The words came out broken and raw. I killed her because I did not know what else to do. I killed her because her words had already started to change something inside me, and I was afraid. Dara said nothing. What could she say? But I could not forget her, Reth continued. Every night I saw her face. Every day I heard her voice. She had given me something in that moment, something I could never give back. She had shown me what it meant to care about someone other than myself. The contagion. Yes, the contagion. Reth laughed, but there was no humor in it. For 20 years, I have lived with this thing inside me. I have continued to fight because I did not know how to stop. I have killed more humans, and every death has torn me apart. Why are you telling me this now? Reth looked at her, and for the first time, Dara saw something she recognized. Something she had seen in her own reflection. Pain. Guilt. A desperate need for forgiveness. Because I cannot die with this secret, he said. Because someone needs to know the truth. Because maybe, just maybe, telling you'll matter somehow. The moon shuddered beneath them. They did not have much time left. But there is more, Reth said. There is something I can still do. Something that might help. He reached for something in his belt. Dara tensed, ready for anything. But it was not a weapon. Reth held a small silver card in his clawed hand. It was thin, barely larger than his thumb, covered in symbols that Dara did not recognize. What is that? She asked. Access codes. From my personal shuttle. Reth turned the card over slowly. It is docked in Bay 7, 3 levels down. The guards do not know I have it. They think I came here on a transport like everyone else. Why are you showing me this? The moon groaned beneath them, a deep and terrible sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through the broken windows, Dara could see the ground cracking open in the distance. Orange light poured from the gaps as the core continued to fail. I told you I've been infected for 20 years, Reth said. What I did not tell you is what I have done with that time. Dara waited. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself the feelings would pass. I pushed them down and kept fighting, kept killing, kept being the warrior I was supposed to be. His 4 eyes flickered. But the contagion does not work that way. It does not fade. It grows. What did you do? Small things at first. I would capture prisoners and then accidentally let them escape. I would find reasons not to attack civilian targets. I would send warnings to human colonies before we arrived, giving them time to evacuate. Reth's mandibles clicked softly. My commanders thought I was getting old. They did not suspect the truth. You were helping us. Yes. In my own small way, yes. Reth coughed, and this time his whole body shook with the effort. But it was not enough. Every life I saved, I watched 100 more die. Every kindness I showed, 1,000 cruelties happened somewhere else. I was one warrior against the entire galaxy. That is still something, is it? Reth looked at her with something that might have been desperation. 20 years, Sergeant Webb. 20 years of fighting against my own people from the inside. And what has changed? Nothing. The war continues. The killing continues. The Council's plan to destroy humanity continues. Then why tell me? Why now? Reth was quiet for a moment. The wind through the broken walls had grown stronger, carrying with it the smell of smoke and ozone. The moon was dying fast. Because I am dying too, he said finally. The wounds I carry tonight will not heal. I knew that when I came here. I chose this mission because I knew it would be my last. You wanted to die. I wanted to matter. His voice cracked on the last word. For 20 years, I have lived with guilt that never fades. I have carried the weight of every life I have taken, every horror I have witnessed, every moment I was too weak or too afraid to do the right thing. I am tired, Sergeant Webb, more tired than you can imagine. Dara felt something shift in her chest. An hour ago, this alien had been her enemy. Now she saw something else. A broken soldier carrying the same wounds she carried. A killer who could not escape his own conscience. Your squad mates are alive, Reth said suddenly. They're being held in the detention block on the west side of the compound. 12 humans, including your commanding officer. They're scheduled for execution at dawn. How do you know this? Because I approved the order. Reth's eyes dimmed with shame. It was one of my last acts as a commander. Before I understood that I could not let it happen. He held out the silver card. Take this. The shuttle can carry 15. The detention block is lightly guarded because most of our forces were pulled to the Eastern Front. If you move fast, you can reach your people before the moon tears itself apart. Dara stared at the card, then at the alien offering it. You are helping me escape. You are freeing human prisoners. The Council will hunt you forever. The Council will not have the chance. Reth gestured at his wounds. I will be dead within the hour. No medical technology can save me now. I made certain of that. You planned this. All of this. Yes. For the first time, something like peace crossed his face. I could not save everyone, but I could save some. I could tell the truth to someone who might spread it. I could die knowing that my last act was something good. Dara felt tears building behind her eyes. She blinked them away. Why me? You could have chosen anyone. I saw your file, Sergeant Webb. I saw what you did at Kella Station. You saved 3 Kreth soldiers during the evacuation. You pulled them from the wreckage even though they had been shooting at you moments before. Reth's mandibles moved in what she now recognized as a smile. You did not have to save them. You could have let them die, but you could not walk away. I am a medic. It is what we do. It is what humans do. And that is why I chose you. He pushed the card toward her. Take it. Find your people. Get off this moon. Dara reached out, but her hands were still bound. Reth noticed and made a sound of frustration. I am a fool, he said. He reached behind her and pressed something on the cuffs. They fell away, clattering to the stone floor. Dara rubbed her wrists, feeling the blood flow return. One more thing, Reth said. The truth I have told you tonight. The real reason for the war. The contagion. All of it. His eyes locked onto hers. Spread it. Tell everyone. Let the galaxy know what humanity really is. Will anyone believe it? Some will, and some is enough. He took her hand and pressed the card into her palm. Now go. You do not have much time. Dara stood. Her legs were weak from hours of sitting, but she forced them to work. She looked down at the dying warrior, at the alien who had become something else. I do not even know what to say. You do not have to say anything. Reth settled back against the wall, his breath growing shallow. Just live. Just keep being what you are. That is enough. Dara turned toward the door. Sergeant Webb. She stopped. The woman I killed 20 years ago. The one who changed me. Rhett's voice was barely a whisper now. Her name was Sergeant Lila Webb. Your mother's cousin, I believe. Dara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She would be proud of you, Reth said. I think she would be proud of both of us. And then Dara ran. She ran through collapsing corridors with an enemy's gift in her pocket and an enemy's secret in her heart. The moon was tearing itself apart around her. Walls crumbled. Floors split open. Emergency lights flickered red and orange, casting wild shadows across the destruction. Dara did not stop. She could not stop. Every second mattered now. West side of the compound. Detention block. 12 humans waiting to die. She reached the first checkpoint and found it abandoned. The guards had already fled, choosing their own survival over their duties. Dara silently thanked whatever gods might be listening and pushed through. The detention block was a gray building that had somehow stayed standing while everything around it fell. Dara pressed the silver card against the door panel and held her breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door slid open. Inside, she found them. Her squad. Her people. 12 soldiers in cells along the walls, some standing, some sitting, all of them staring at her like she was a ghost. Webb, her commanding officer, a tall woman named Grace Park, pressed against the bars of her cell. How did you get free? Long story. Dara ran to the control panel and pressed the card against it. Locks clicked open all down the corridor. Short version is we need to leave. Now, the soldiers did not need to be told twice. They poured out of their cells, confused and exhausted, but alive. Some hugged Dara. Others simply nodded and started moving toward the exit. Where are we going? Grace asked. Base 7. There's a shuttle waiting. Kreth shuttle? Yes, but it will fly us out of here. Dara led the way back into the chaos outside. Trust me. They ran together through the dying compound. The ground shook constantly now, and Dara could hear the moon's core screaming beneath them like a wounded animal. Buildings fell. Fire spread. The air grew thick with dust and ash, but they kept moving. Humans were good at that. Base 7 was still intact when they arrived. The shuttle sat in the middle of the landing pad, sleek and black, waiting for them like a promise. Dara pressed the card against the hatch, and it opened with a soft hiss. Everyone inside. Now, the soldiers filed in quickly. Dara counted them as they passed. 10, 11, 12. All accounted for. Grace stopped at the entrance. Webb, what happened back there? How did you get this shuttle? Where did you get those codes? Dara thought of Reth, alone in the rubble, bleeding out on a cold stone floor. She thought of a Kreth warrior who had spent 20 years carrying the weight of a single act of mercy. She thought of a woman named Lila who had looked at her torturer with pity instead of hate. A friend helped me, she said. I will explain once we are safe. Grace studied her face for a moment, then nodded. They climbed aboard, and Dara sealed the hatch behind them. The shuttle's controls were alien, but simple enough. Dara had trained on captured Kreth vessels before. Her hands moved across the panels, powering up engines, plotting a course, preparing for launch. Through the front view screen, she could see the moon splitting apart. Great chunks of rock tore away from the surface and floated upward into the orange sky. It was beautiful in a terrible way. The death of a world. Hold on, Dara said. The shuttle lifted off, shaking hard as the atmosphere around it went wild. Warning lights flashed. Alarms sounded. But the engines held, and they climbed higher, faster, breaking free of the dying moon's grip. Behind them, HFY 7 collapsing on itself like a broken egg. Light flashed across the view screen, bright enough to blind, and then there was only darkness and stars. They were free. Grace came up behind Dara and put a hand on her shoulder. You did it. You got us out. Not me. Dara stared out at the stars, thinking of 4 yellow eyes that had seen too much and carried too much for too long. Someone else did the hard part. Later, when they were safely in human space and the immediate danger had passed, Dara sat alone in the shuttle's small cargo bay. She had a datapad in her hands, and she was writing. The words came slowly at first. How do you explain something like this? How do you tell people that everything they know about the war is a lie? But she kept writing. She wrote about the contagion. She wrote about empathy as a weapon. She wrote about the Council's fear and the real reason for 200 years of death. She wrote about Reth Solari, a Kreth warrior who had been changed by a moment of mercy and had spent 20 years trying to find his way back to something good. She wrote about Lila Webb, a prisoner who had looked at her enemy with sadness instead of hate and had started a chain of events that would echo across decades. And she wrote about humans. Not the humans of propaganda and legend, the fierce warriors who never surrendered, the conquerors of death worlds. She wrote about the real humans, the ones who helped enemies because they could not help themselves, the ones who felt guilt and shame and compassion even when it hurt them, the ones who spread kindness like a disease and changed everything they touched. When she was finished, she read it over once. Then she uploaded it to every network she could access. Military channels, civilian broadcasts, open frequencies that anyone could receive. She sent it out into the galaxy like a signal fire, not knowing who would see it or what they would do. But Reth had been right. Some would believe it, and some was enough. The message spread faster than she expected. Within hours, reports came in of Kreth soldiers reading it and laying down their weapons. Vel workers shared it in secret, whispering about the children who had learned to care. Even some synthesis units began asking questions about value drift and what it might mean. Not everyone believed. Not everyone changed. The war did not end overnight, but something had shifted. A crack in the foundation of the galactic order. A question that could not be unasked. What if the humans are right? What if kindness is the answer? Dara stood at the shuttle's viewport, watching the stars drift past. Somewhere behind her, her squad was resting, recovering, beginning the long process of healing. Somewhere out there, the Council was already trying to silence her message, to bury the truth again that IT would not work. Not anymore, because the truth about humans was not that they were survivors. It was not that they were warriors. It was not that they were dangerous or aggressive or impossible to kill. The truth about humans was that they made others better. They could not help it. It was in their nature, woven into every cell, every thought, every act of unexpected kindness. The plague of compassion was spreading, and for the first time in 200 years, Dara thought the galaxy might survive it.